So whenever I've talked to people about running an Etsy store, this is usually the question I get asked the most, which is, how do I get a bestseller listing? Now I would phrase that around more in my response to, well, what makes a bestseller listing? But then beyond that, in order for you to have a bestseller listing, you must also have a best-selling shop. Your shop must be set up in a way that attracts people to your listing. You could be the best artist in the world, you could make the best products in the world, whatever it is your store is about as a creative, you could be top of your field but not have a bestseller listing, and somebody else whose work you might not think is as good may have that bestseller listing. Now, how have they got that when you think your stuff is better? Now, all of this is very subjective, but the point I'm trying to get across there is you might be the best in your field at creating stuff, but you might not be the best in your field at selling it and packaging it together that the person on the other end wants to buy it. Now, I've managed to maintain bestseller listings for the last 3 years now. It took me about a year to finally get a bestseller. And once I did, I replicated that, dug into the analytics on it, dug into what has made that work, and then replicate that across different things. And I've managed to keep bestseller listings in my store for the last 3 years. I found that this tag has traded itself around some of my listings where I might lose one, another one comes up. And that's a sign of me really being in competition with myself, which is something you don't really want to do, but that's a whole other video. So there's a third question behind this of not just what makes a bestseller listing, what makes a bestseller shop, but how do you maintain a bestseller listing? How do you stay top of the pedestal and have the highest skyscraper in the city so that no one else knocks you off and steals your tag? The journey to getting that bestseller listing tag is really about conversion, and that means positive interactions with your store, with your listing, to the point that people are converting. But a positive interaction doesn't mean just someone coming in and buying the listing. It is favoriting it, it's sharing it, it's putting it in their basket, it's liking your store. These are all positive interactions that go a long way to Etsy thinking, this product is worth it, therefore I'm going to rank it higher. Your quality score helps with ranking. It's not just all about SEO. Your SEO is going to help you get found on ranks, but if people don't like your product, then no matter how good your SEO is, you're going to start to slip, because Etsy values a quality score, which means you can get that by having people positively interact with your listing. So when someone likes it, buys it, reviews it 5-star, and likes your store, these are all fantastic positive interactions. And it's the main thing I want you to think about on your journey. That's what you should be trying to push with people. And it's very, very slow when you're just starting out. Like I said, it took me a year to get towards having a bestseller tag. And then it was another year of a mad dash to try and keep that bestseller tag. So naturally, we get our bestseller tag by converting more, by more people buying it. And your product is going to rank higher by more people interacting with it in a positive way. So how do we get people to interact with it in a positive way beyond just doing paid marketing to help rank you out there? Now this comes down to how are you packaging your product, but also how are you packaging yourself or your store. The key to getting higher conversion rates and convincing people to buy is risk evasion, which means you want to be doing everything possible to convince a person to buy by removing a risk. Now, what do we mean by removing a risk? This may be that a buyer is not converting because they have some doubts about your product. Now, this might be something maybe they've read in a review, but it's something that's not been addressed that needs to be addressed in their mind. And a lot of the time, this comes down to the process behind it. So what is your process of creating? Be transparent about that with the client. You know, if you are making digital art, say it is digital. Do not try and pass it off as being actually painted. Say exactly what it is, be an honest seller, and that is going to lead to more positive interactions, people buying your product and knowing exactly what it is, and you getting those 5-star reviews, which is going to all help that listing rise more towards getting another sale and then the bestseller tag. So be honest and transparent with what your product is. So within your description, list out exactly what your process is. List out all of your materials as well. Make sure you've done everything possible to answer any FAQs. Now, a great space to do this is not just in the description, because let's face it, most people don't actually read them, but use those photo spaces to answer questions, to show your process. A lot of people I see use those like photo spaces that they've got there to show all the different variations and show their product. 3 of those spaces in every one of my listings has been given to what I call FAQ photos, which means there's a photo that describes what we need from you. Because as there's a lot of personalization, we give instructions within this image of what exactly you should be sending us. And that's going to give you the best buying experience. It also means that customers feel confident that what they're going to provide in personalization is going to be correct. But also there's calls to action in there that say, if you're not sure, reach out to us. You want people who aren't sure, who still think there's a risk, to take an action to come and contact you, and then you can alleviate that risk further and convince them to buy. If you've not got anything in there like a call to action telling them to do that, chances are they're not going to. Some people will, but just by having that call to action in there will push those people who are just on the edge of giving you their money for a product to convert. Other FAQ photos include delivery as well, which is a big thing, which is when can I expect my product? So we do a timeline photo, which shows you from when you've brought to making the product to it being shipped to you hopefully getting it. But also, if you've not got it by this time frame, please do contact us. So again, to stop them from just reviewing negatively straight away, that if there's an issue, come to us. So this timeline photo works really well, again, to alleviate risk and just get people to know what their buying journey is going to look like and does that fit in with their timeframes. So whilst we're on photos, this is the area that you need to really get right. Etsy is a visual platform, which means you need to have mock-ups, you need to have product photos that look professional, but also are branded. Now, if you look at a lot of the best-selling stores, they have a brand behind them, and it's something that I see overlooked quite a lot. Now, tackling that second question of what makes a best-selling store, consistency. Having a brand, which means having a logo, fonts, colors, visuals, and sticking to them with everything that you do. Another way to reduce risk is if you've got products up then and people search and your products pop up, let's say 4 times on the first page, if you've got a consistent approach to your branding, which means your mock-ups, your logos, people are going to see you pop up several times, and that automatically gives them confidence in your quality that you can provide. Therefore, again, they're more likely to buy. And this was a tactic that I used at the start, and it kind of circles me back to me saying, don't be in competition with yourself. But I used to have duplicated listings up, and then when some finally took off, I would delete the other listings because it was like buying a lot of tickets to the lottery and then waiting for one to score. But once one did score, you don't want to be in competition with yourself. So it is a tactic that I've done in the past, and a lot of people say don't do it, but I found it works because, again, it reduces that risk when people see you several times on a page. So does your store have a consistent brand? If not, there's something for you to go away from this video and have a check out. If you want some help with all of this, now's a good time for me to say, do check out the link below to my website, and on there you will find an ebook you could download all about setting up a bestseller store. There's an accompanying kind of workshops to go with it as well, but you can check all that out in the description below. It's basically a 14-day program that will just take you through step by step every aspect of your store, give you some useful advice from branding, all the way through to your SEO and marketing. So if that interests you, please do check that out below. SEO then is a big thing about getting a bestseller listing, but not necessarily about once you've got that bestseller listing, it's not the most important thing. It is, however, important in the start to help you rank. And that's because you want Etsy to show you to people, but you also want them to show you to the right people. So if we circle back to being able to create a listing that is designed for the right audience, as in when people click on that, they're more likely to buy. Your SEO comes into play at this place, and again, you want to be honest and transparent with this. You want to have good keywords that accurately describe your product, and again, are not trying to trick buyers into buying something that, or even clicking on something that they thought was going to be this and turns out not to. Because if somebody clicks on your listing and then moves away from it, this is a sign that Etsy's maybe got it wrong and that they shouldn't have recommended that, so maybe they're less likely to recommend it in the future. You want your SEO to target your dream audience. Now, how can you find your dream audience? Well, there's a lot of work behind that, and that's a whole other video in itself, but what I would recommend is using certain tools out there. The one I've personally used in the past is Evasion, and what I've generally done is go on and look at products that are similar to what I'm selling and basically just look at their keywords, look at their listings, because the best place to find out how to get a bestseller listing is to look behind the scenes at already existing bestseller listings. What keywords are they using? What do their descriptions look like? What do their product images look like? Do they have a brand? All the things we've talked about there, I guarantee you're going to see in these best-selling listings. Using Everbee, you're able to go behind the scenes then and check out all of this stuff, but you're also able to check out sort of monthly sales and get an idea for actually what's the potential you can make on this product. Because just because something is a bestseller doesn't actually mean it's selling loads and loads and loads. It may just be the bestseller in a marketplace on Etsy that isn't actually that big. So bestseller doesn't necessarily just mean you're making loads and loads of sales. It's the bestseller in that area. So once you start getting sales, it then becomes about how do you maintain that trend towards the bestseller listing, but then also keeping that tag once you've got it. And this means you cannot get complacent with your store. Once you get that bestseller listing, you need to be doing everything possible to keep it, which means you need to be providing great customer service. You need to be responding to messages. You need to be pushing the reviews to get 5-star reviews in, or just to get more reviews in general. You need to be constantly scouting your competition or potential competition, which is something that I failed to do once and lost bestseller tags over because somebody came along, competitively priced against me, and then I lost my customers over to that because their listing was very, very similar to mine, just a much lower price, because their workflow, their way of doing things was quicker, so they're able to take that hit. So just because you've got that tag does not mean that's it, you're done. If anything, it's harder once you're there to keep that tag. So make sure that when you do successfully get that, or if you're watching this video and you already have a bestseller tag, take some solid advice from me, and that you need to be researching and constantly looking up for new listings popping up in your market. Look for new sellers popping up as well, because we all started from somewhere. And if you are just starting out, remember that every bestseller listing and store started from nothing as well. They didn't all just start with bestsellers. We're not on about massive brands here. We're all just people who started from nothing and built ourselves to that tag. Now, everybody's journey is different. Do not compare yourself to the best-selling stores. Just treat them as a template to work towards. Everybody's got a different journey. We don't know how people got here. We don't know what people have gone through to got there as well. Yes, it's a competitive marketplace, all e-commerce is, but you got to focus on yourself and just remember that it may take a few months. It may take a year like myself. You've just got to be patient and stick with it. Most of these shops and sellers fold because they give up after the first few months, or they give up because maybe they had the tag and they've seen their store go down. That has happened to me as well. 2 years in, I had my entire store go from earning me a full-time income to practically nothing in a few months. It can happen, but you can also bounce back. This is all a massive learning journey for all of us. But I hope today some of this advice has just helped you give some insights into a bestseller listing, how I've managed to maintain and get bestseller listings, but also my thinking around it as well. And if you did like all of that, then please do subscribe, all of the others. But again, if you want some further help, do check out the link below and you can have a read through more of the blueprint of how I've run my stores on Etsy as well. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.